Welcome to the Salty Dragon Tavern. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and listen to some people with ADHD talk about their experiences at the last quest. Now, before we go into the questions, of course, I've always got to go through all the little bits and pieces relating to everything we do, which is called LARP. So as you all know, in a week and a half, if not even that actually, probably just a bit over a week, we'll be having the first set of ticket sales go out for Quest. So get yourselves prepared for that. Nice to have all your money and see them all sold within the first 10 minutes of them opening up. And then a torrent of people complaining afterwards. It's just a prediction I'm going through at the moment. The next thing is that, as I said, we have our Shisha Den, which we have a GoFundMe page. Again, we would just like people to just chuck in $5. If everyone who went to Quest chucked in $5 or more, we'd make the best Shisha Den known to man. And if you can actually help us get to that particular goal and get the greatest Shisha Den of all, then we know that you want something like this, and we will actually push it out to other particular areas and other particular ideas to make the town of Quest and Quest itself better and better and better each year. So this is why we want to do this, is why we're doing it. Alright, other than that, what else have I got? I don't think I've got much else to actually say. We do have a Sunday night Dungeons and Dragons game that we run on the same channel. We run it in Althea, and we run it every Sunday night, of course, at 6:30 PM, almost on the dot, when my ADH players for that particular game pay attention. Squirrel. Also, this is the last talk I'm going to be doing in relation to Quest. I'm going to have a small break before I start doing it again, because I want to organise a whole heap all at once, just so I have a good lead up as opposed to doing them kind of at the last moment at this stage. It looks like everyone's loving these particular talks, because we're going to go into talks about general cool stories for LARPers. We're going to go into the New World especially. We're probably going to talk to a few of the war bands who have decided to make a major change, and have a talk with them about why and what they're doing and how it affects the game itself. Because a lot of interesting things have come out since the changeover has happened. So looking forward to that. One of the other things we're also going to do as a talk is a talk of what to actually bring to Quest. So I think that's very important. That one came up and it was like, that's actually a really good idea. Nice and simple, go through, probably won't take us all that long, but we'll probably just repeat everything we say over again. Bring this, bring socks, and bring socks. Alright, so let's get into the first question for my players. Now first and foremost, because I haven't told them I was going to do this, because again, ADH players, and they're just interrupting me.
It's not my fault.
We're going to start by, they're going to tell me their name, they're going to tell me the warband that they are part of, if they are part of one, and their character name. I'm going to start on my right hand side.
So, I'm Taylor, I'm part of the Highwaymen, and I played a gypsy character called Anzella.
Hi, I'm Frederick James Hamlin-Harris, or Freddie. I'm part of the warband of Arato, or Chaos, as we're now known again, and I play the Mad Mage.
Hi, I'm David. I went to Quest with Chesterwick, and I played Henry Walford.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm part of the Rogues Battalion, and my character's name is Blair.
Hi, I'm Josh Lee. I am part of the Pirates Brethren, and then my character's name is Caleb.
Awesome. Yes, before you do go on to the question, sorry. Unfortunately, OBS decided to have a bit of a crap session, so I had to rebuild the page again. So all the settings for audio is out. So legitimately, if you are having audio issues and not hearing very well, by all means tell us in the chat, and I'll try and adjust them as they're answering questions. It sounded good when I was listening to it before, but I don't know how it transfers once it's on actual Twitch itself. Alright, first question, which is your great Quest highlights.
Really, Freddie?
I shouldn't have given him a soft drink before.
That was your mistake.
The chaos healer. Excellent. Good. The audio is good. I've got it right for once, maybe. Wow, this is the first time. Oh my god, I might have it right the very first time. What's going on? No!
It's a sign of terrible things to come.
Yeah, it's a sign of terrible things to come.
Next thing you know, the whole Twitch platform's just going to collapse on you.
You know what? No one asked you to shut
It's more likely your phone will just crap out on me.
Yeah. I told you, you've got a time limit on
No,
this.
that's true. Alright, so the very first question, who would like to go first? What was your highlighted quest?
Okay. One of the big highlights that I had was role-playing with Janos, who was played by Michael Sixtus. And one of the best things was actually the Ministry of Education robbery. That was quite funny to orchestrate because we had a few people that were interested. And then I was walking out on the street, like corralling people, getting them in, and then just happened that Joy was just walking past, not even in relation to the roleplay, that it was a perfect moment for Janos to leave and us to just jump everyone. It was great.
Who's next?
I can go next. My favourite part was probably organising as part of a deal with the Dark Elves. Senka. Part of the deal with the Senka, trading for one of their Saga fleets, because at the beginning of Quest we thought that Sagas might still matter. And to be fair, it does. So we were trading one of their fleets for some stuff in character, a scroll that we found, and they just heard me tell a story from old Soulcraft about a shiny dagger, a dagger so powerful and so shiny that you could explain to people out of character how shiny it was, so they could react in character appropriately. So I got to work setting up the ritual, grabbed $1,000 worth of LARP equipment, hundreds and hundreds of swords pointing towards the centre, asked Janos that if I could borrow his, he asked us why, we said we wanted to buy a fleet called Marcos Regret, he said he had us at regret, that was the last word we said. But so we did it all, we transferred all the shininess from all the different daggers, I got into the middle of town, I yelled a bunch about how we're going to make this dagger shiny, a lot of people joined in, it was great, and then as it turns out that weapon had the soul of an avatar in it, and since it had been dulled, that soul could no longer be used for anything. So I disrupted a plot line accidentally, just by being myself, and I got paid for it. So that's one of my highlights.
Okay, this was my third quest, but it was the first that I really got the chance to go out and roleplay independently, because my character, Henry, ran for the Senate. And that was cool because I kind of needed to interact with people I wouldn't normally, kind of make those political alliances and things like that. Let me think.
And some shady deals.
Yeah, many shady deals.
Sneaky.
Let me think. One dramatic moment was that Charlie's character, the Dr. Schilder of the Order, was who was also running for the Senate, intending to overthrow the Queen somehow. My character kind of befriended, also exploited hers, and kind of like asked, oh, what's going on with this rebellion thing? And kind of teased the information out about this, and of course went to the Queen with it. And the Dr. Schilder ended up being executed for treason. But my character, Henry, arranged for her place in the Senate to be filled by Sean O'Brien's character, Checkers. So we sat there. Oh, I remember there's the gallows. And we're standing there and we hear shrieking and screaming coming from the priory as Charlie's character is being tortured and gets dragged out, being whipped and kicked by Two Fingers. It's just a highly disturbing scene, and Checkers and I are just standing there with our hands together thinking, this is going just perfectly according to plan. And yeah, we watch Charlie's character be whipped and then hanged. And that's what I wondered. You know, I kind of sympathized with my character in that, but I had to ask myself in that moment, he's a bit of a bad guy. Yeah. That's it. Sorry.
Everyone's a bad guy, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a
Gee.
give some shady stuff.
I felt
actually, before I go
uncomfortable.
into your two, quick apologies from Charlie, because she was supposed to be here but got held up, probably still in Perth or at least on the plane back. Alright, next for your quest highlights, which one are you two going next?
Sure, well, I'm not pouring.
Oh.
I'm trying to pour, apparently. So earlier in the week, we got asked to basically hold up the Red Hound. Not for any money, just because, you know, would you do this? And we said, yes, of course we would. So we had a letter signed and sealed by none other than Ferdinand of the Bloody Rats to rob his own tavern. Because, of course, why wouldn't
How does that not surprise me?
Exactly. But, so we went in a couple of days later. It was a very peaceful robbery, really. We just held them up. Basically, if they didn't give up their weapons, we'd shoot them. Pretty simple. Most gave up their weapons. The barman was slightly outraged and said he'd be having words with Ferdinand and gave us the box that we thought contained the money. We took the box to Ferdinand. He opened it and it actually contained mostly just candles. I think there were a few coppers in there, but not much. Apparently, after that, so this was close to the last couple of days at Quest, that was basically Ferdinand's end of his story, is what I heard. It may have been just a rumour that basically he got the money and then he was never seen again, so he had an early retirement.
An early retirement on a couple of copper. Easy man to satisfy.
Bloody rats, man.
I mean, you can do a lot with a candle.
No one wants to know, Freddie.
Oh god.
No mind going into the gutter on that one.
No, that would. Your mind is illuminated with candles. Michael's
Not really,
already.
I've decided that I'm going to do one particular talk of all the worst people I know who have the worst puns.
Oh, then.
So you and Wackhorn would definitely.
I need to spend more time with Wackhorn.
then
I adore him.
If
Don't
the
tell
Ghosts have
him.
the worst people, definitely Ben.
Well, he's
from-
probably
from the
watching right
Heist
now,
and
so he
probably
probably
Jason.
heard that.
Yes.
I don't love you, Wackhorn.
Right. Josh, what was yours?
Yeah, well, probably mine, which actually extended the entire week, was that I was running the Pirates games in the casino, which meant that I was talking to a lot of different people that came in and out of the casino that played against the house, against me, and yeah, it was just so much fun. Especially, like, I ended up getting so many regulars, about 3 regulars that came every single night. One in particular, what was he? Nigel was his real name, but he was the Knights Templar that came in every single night. The banter and roleplay between us about me just stealing his money, and we were both part of the werewolf game, and towards the end of the week, he wanted to put me up for hanging, suspecting me of being a werewolf because I kept stealing his money at the gambling. And it got to the point where he said, "What unholy man would steal someone's money?" And I'm just like, well, that's the whole point of a casino. You come there to lose your money.
It's like if he ever gave you a silver, you should just pretend like that it burnt you. It's just like, ah!
Oh no, I took plenty of his silver. Oh, he's he was so much fun to play with. Even on the last day, I don't know how, I took all of his money every single night, and every single night he came back with more somehow. And I'd take it again. And even on the last day, he ended up with 4 copper in his hand, and I was like, well, I'm leaving at lunchtime after the final battle. I don't want to leave while you've still got money. So we ended up, I actually said that to him in character, because like my character, I'm a pirate, of course, and like I'm in charge of all the gambling for the pirates. So I was like, well, I am not, this cannot stand. So I ended up playing a 1-on-1, 50% chance on one of the roulette tables. I commandeered one of the roulette tables and I said, right, one of us will put it on black, one of us will put it on red, and whatever it comes up, that's who wins. And we kept playing back and forth. He won a few, I won most, until I took all of his money.
Nice.
Fair enough.
And he already said he's going to be hunting me down next quest.
In
We're going to talk about in the lead up, and we're going to talk about how our new characters can have a sort of rivalry going, which is going to be great.
Hey, groovy.
You would never know what it's like to bring old rivalries to new quests.
I think, one of the things that I was looking forward to tonight specifically is that when I'm running things at Quest, mostly the Underworld and this particular time around the Shisha Den, I have only key people that I normally talk to who visit these places because they're the type of characters who do that. Not everyone, in fact barely anyone realistically goes through the Underworld or the Shisha Den. Like I probably maybe got 20% of the player base even just use the Shisha Den. So I don't get to hear a lot of these particular stories. So I could probably run 50 different ones of these nights for a whole heap of different players of all little bits and pieces of stuff that they managed to do, stories that they brought out. So thank you for starters. And yeah, this is what we're trying to bring out, these little stories that we don't know about and don't hear about, and hopefully bring to the rest of the player base if they actually listen to these talks. Now for the great question that we always come to, which is the worst or bad part of Quest in relation to you more than anything else.
Oh.
And if you struggle on that one, just something bad you can...
Skills.
Who would like to start with that hot potato?
No, y'all don't look at me. I start.
I can go first. I don't have a
Pretty
personally
quick.
bad.
Alright.
I actually had a really, really good quest. Well, the worst things were that a lot of the time, myself and my entire warband didn't feel motivated to go into any of the scheduled battles. We just ended up hanging out with each other. It didn't feel very organic. A lot of the ones that we were in, they were kind of one-sided, and the ones that weren't one-sided were more like a Friday night, which was fine and a lot of fun. And that format works. We know that format works. But I think instead of the final battle, my entire warband made meagering. And the one guy who did go to the final battle regretted not staying for meagering.
That's fair enough.
And the other one, sorry. Just also the
Come on, do the salt!
sorry.
Look,
I'm more vinegar than salt. There's the chat. Anyway. No, the other thing is it was a bit of confusion as to whether or not you had 30 minutes memory loss, because the only time anyone actually mentioned 30 minutes memory loss was the guy from the werewolf game, who was not an actual organizer, mentioned that you don't have to have 30 minutes memory loss if you die because of werewolf-related game, but that was nowhere in the player's handbook. So death was already confusing enough, but no one knew if they had to forget the last half an hour either.
Well, you weren't supposed to go to death if you died because of the werewolf game.
Exactly, but
which no one knew until like the 4th day.
But no one, it seemed like one of the 30 minutes memory loss was one of those things that wasn't intended, and then it ended up being a thing because everyone told each other it was a thing. And that was a bit weird, and I loved it, and it was organic, but like a lot of things that are organic, it was being eaten by insects because it didn't have enough pesticide. Sorry.
That is an interesting comparison, Freddie.
I like trains.
Yeah, I will have to say there was a lot of reluctance going into battle just because of, the whole, you could have this massive gold faction against, this tiny little black and red faction, which actually did happen at one point, being outnumbered like 38 to everyone else.
Yep.
So that was a bit crazy. Was a lot of reluctance in the final battle just because, it's the whole steamroll thing, and it's like, oh, is it really worth it? Did end up going into the final battle, managed not to get injured, which was great, because last spring quest I copped a cannonball to the head and was decimated within like the first 10 minutes of the battle, so I was lucky to survive this one.
That's interesting. Yeah, on that, I think the stakes of the battle were unclear.
Mm. Yeah, definitely, especially when it came to collecting crown pieces. It's like the more powerful your warband, so the better your alliances are, or the better you are at paying people off, the more crown pieces you seem to get, and that was really hard for smaller warbands to kind of team up and get a hold of.
Who's next? I'll go next. As someone who, as someone who
Said you'd go next.
went into the Senate game, coming from Cryo Quest, where from my perspective it seemed so story driven. Like there was the whole the overthrow plot, and I sat in on like some crazy late night meetings about the state of emergency and things like that. I was kind of disappointed, although it was fun to do all the Machiavellian dealings and to successfully pass the bill and things like that. I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't much story to the Senate this time around, and that the game to it was just winning the silver at the end. And if there was something more to it, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more looking back.
I think in the end of the world thing sort of made that just generally impossible, because we've always tried to, going forward for the following quest, reflect on what happened in the Senate itself to sort of bring in part of that role play as well as the other stuff that occurs. But yeah, being the end of the world made it have far less of an impact on the whole game.
That's true. Although I kind of like designed the Senate bill to play upon those story events, and I was kind of relying on, say, the Queen being around a bit more. And I think because of some other story-related things, she wasn't, and so I didn't really get a chance to get into the story side of it.
I actually didn't find out until after Quest had already begun that there was 20 silver if you got voted in as a senator. If I knew that, I would have run for it. Can you imagine that? A pirate senator.
We had to hire
I was about to say, it's like, yes, weirdly enough we can.
I thought he was a...
We had to hire him in senator.
Yeah, but he was a lawyer.
I thought he was a lawyer.
So.
We had a
That's kind
lawyer.
of like...
we had a band on tribunal.
Like, come on.
Well, still, he was more of a nobleman, I find.
Had me fooled. He's very good.
He's a member of... Yeah, he's...
Master of disguise. If I put a cat on my face, I wouldn't have been able to do a better job. So. If I can make Tim laugh and derail this thing, I'm done.
No, like,
Yeah, not as bad as it ended on the end.
Probably the worst part of Quest for me was the PvE, because in the lead up to Quest and even at the start of Quest, we were being told that the PvE was going to be, that forest, and in there was going to be monsters to fight, there was going to be crown pieces to find, money to be found hidden around, and scrolls and all that, things to actually find in there, like a scavenger hunt sort of thing. And I loved it. I loved the idea of it. I was looking forward to it. I was actually getting a group together to actually go and hunt down these monsters, earn bounties, all this stuff. But it never actually happened. And what now that wasn't Swordcraft's fault, because it was to do with the farmers. They didn't actually open the field up for us to access. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed that didn't actually happen. Yeah, that was probably the worst part for me. But I try and look at the positives, really. Hard to do at sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about
Don't put him on the spot like that, Brady. I mean, we're in a stream as it is.
Sorry, my bad.
After a while, some people start talking enough, they forget the stream even exists.
What stream?
Well, I'm not changing my behaviour at all, but thanks for reminding me of the stream.
I was gonna say, Freddie, don't make me put you in the corner. Come on.
There's already a corner.
You just put me under the table.
Okay.
This is where I belong.
He subconsciously put himself in the corner.
Okay. Well,
That's where he belongs.
yeah. Well, similar to you though, I had a really good quest. It was fantastic. It was pretty drama free. The worst part probably would have been some of the more into warband politics side. The CSS, as a newer player, it was hard to sort of understand the politics and get into it and actually be listened to. I am a naturally quieter person, that happens anyways. But sometimes if you're trying to be heard, and no one really listens regardless. It can be very frustrating. But yeah, there was a small issue of the CSS was really keen to have all their warbands join under the same avatar. So they were waiting. It was either that or they weren't going to sign under any avatar. And they eventually signed up because I believe, is what I was told, they were told basically you can't fight in the final battle if you don't have an avatar. So then they went and did it. But yeah, there was a few issues surrounding that because they were trying to kind of prevent some kinds of roleplay for some of the smaller warbands, which some of the warbands ended up being like, stuff you, we're going to go sign up anyway, and they did, which was, you know, fine really. Just, it could have been handled a lot better, and it would have been a bit nicer if it wasn't just a my dick's larger than yours kind of contest, essentially. Like, the CSS are huge as it is, and yes, they ended up being derailed by the end of it, kind of. But, yeah. I don't know how it was. It was my third quest. It was the first time I've actually gone to meetings that much, such as they are, but...
So you were originally oblivious, then you got involved. And
Oh, yes.
It's just terrible.
No, all the things.
Like, can I please go back to the way it was before? No, you're in it now.
So, sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. What's that? You wanted responsibilities? Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to throw you into the middle of politics game.
Yeah.
Crap.
It's alright, like, I was interested in it, and I still am. It's just... Yeah, it can be difficult
Yeah.
when you're newer.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I found I was having the same issue again about getting into the politics of the game and actually, like, trying to get involved and keep myself informed, and just became crazy because you had so much to keep track of, and, you know, so little time, and in between trying to put your ear to the ground, you had so much to do when you warband, and it just became crazy, and the whole thing just, like, for me, it was a bit overcomplicated, so I'm like, nah, stuff this shit.
Yeah.
I do actually have a personal thing that happened to me that was like that I was kind of annoyed about. Actually, two things now I think about it. I'll just do one quick. I tried to play chess in the Bloody Rats Tavern, and because it was on a hill, that was awful. I was so looking forward to it. I was like, I'm gonna go play chess. I'm gonna like everyone's gonna learn that I'm actually really good at chess.
Table.
Did you table flip?
I would have flipped the table. I tried to flip the table. I would have flipped the table, but it was already starting to happen. Thanks, Lana.
You just straighten the table.
Straighten the table. Yeah, no, and the only other the other thing. Oh, sorry, the other thing was that big ritual where we were all because I'm a mage. That big ritual where we were all trying to do avatar killing rituals. There wasn't a lot of explanation of what was actually going on. We all were told to go to the Mages College to like understand what was going on, and they used all of us as their entrant into the competition, and I ended up like that's when I actually got really upset because I would have made my own ritual of blackjack and hookers, and weirdly enough, nearly an hour later, by yelling shiny, I did, and then this is more me just bragging again, but people started talking about how the fact that shiny ritual is an avatar killing weapon. They thought that was successful, and the guy from the Senkai just kept pulling it out, like holding it literally over his crotch, being like walking around. Yeah, it was like, anyway, that was, so, good to
Well, actually, that avatar killing ritual was like the perfect cover for me and a couple of my own warband members to go kill some rats that had taken one of our guys earlier that morning. So that was a pretty good outcome out of your crappy situation. So sorry about that.
No, it's all good. But yeah, it was just nearly all the events that happened didn't feel organic at all. There wasn't a lot of communication that sort of happened. Yeah. Like some warbands just didn't get like sort of involved with these sort of big competitions or these big sort of events, including the battles. And yeah, it was just Kryla was actually kind of good. Everyone's kind of got informed, but I guess we were smaller. But it just yeah, there wasn't a lot of communication, and a lot of stuff that happened felt kind of forced, and they were forcing it because no one felt any stakes because the world was ending, and the stakes are supposed to get more intense when the world's ending, not less.
Carrying on from that, like I.
Sorry.
So intense.
I love doing that.
I know you do. Yeah, like we were planning things all week, like plans to assassinate the Queen and all that, and we got it approved. We got like they were like, yeah, you can do that, yeah. And then we put it in place. We got everything in place. We started doing it, and then like a couple of days later, no, you can't do that anymore. It's like, and it wasn't just about assassinating the Queen. It was other roleplay things that we were putting in place, and then we were just stonewalled. And it's like we were having so much fun planning it all, and then it's just wasn't. Yeah. And a lot of it was to do with, it's the end of the world, so we're all just here to have fun. It's like, but we want this heavy roleplay. We want these scenarios.
I think with the issue with the end of the world, it just really became a rat race for a lot of the major warbands and stuff, and a lot of us, you know, the smaller ones were kind of getting tread on the process. It's like, we have so much we want to do.
Yeah. And
we're getting stonewalled because everyone's just racing for these gold crown pieces. Everyone's racing for these avatars. And it's like, you know, if there had been some sort of dynamic for some sort of survival, like by gaining this, I reckon a lot more intense and deeper roleplay, more plot lines would have gone along better, other than just, we're...
So you're talking more about the survival of every individual, essentially, as opposed to at a warband level. So like it's
sort of.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you specifically have to do these particular things to survive.
Yes, it could be taken from an individual point of view, but it also can be taken from a warband point of view, going, you know, there are specific things that we can do to survive as a warband. You know, if your warband is like that, if you're tight meshed, or that's like, nah, you know, I'm going to go out and do these things and I'm going to become powerful. And it would have driven a lot more deeper storylines and, you know, have a bit more fun with roleplay. Otherwise, being stonewalled at roleplay is really frustrating because you plan all these amazing things and then, you know, you get derailed because everyone's like, nah, let's, you know, rat race it.
Yeah. Or let's just have fun and not worry about serious stuff, which really pisses me off.
Yeah.
What happened, Tim?
Oh, gosh. Here we go.
Show in class.
This guy, the guy at the top right, you know, stop talking, and he's you don't.
No, well, I'll tell you what, like, that's interesting because, I don't know, from listening to the last two streams, I think it got mentioned, the multi-tiered aspect of the tower game at Mafeking.
Yes.
Possibly would have
That was cool.
That was
been
awesome.
what was missing.
And the battles were a lot more naturally formed.
Oh,
like,
yes.
And you got to have things like scouts, like Black Faction could just randomly come over the hill and you'd be like, well, we're doomed. Which happened and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was so much fun. That was
Yeah.
actually my first quest, and you know what? That was
Same.
my favourite quest. Especially the fact that the final battle felt like a proper battle.
I know, it
Even
just
though it was
lasts like 5 minutes.
I know.
Even though it was long, it was good.
Yeah, well,
Like-
think about it. Back then in the 1500s and all that, a battle had no end time.
You've made the cardinal mistake by bringing real life into it, man.
Yeah, I know.
Don't mention science in D&D. Don't mention history and sword.
I know. But see, when I go to quests, I expect to experience.
See, that's your mistake. You
I know.
expect things.
I know. Never expect things. I know.
You just dive in head first and hope you don't hit the rocks.
I know.
That's it.
But what I mean is like that final battle at Mafeking, it felt real. Because it was that you're waiting for them to make a mistake, and it had no end time. It's just like we're waiting for a mistake. Mistake happened, boom, hit them. All right, let's recover from that. And it felt real.
Yeah, I think the landscape helped with that.
Yeah,
like
it
having
did,
the
it
hill,
did.
the bushes, and everything.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
we were just in a paddock.
Yeah, it felt real. But then like when they started putting all right, it's an hour and a half time limit. And then, like, so everyone's in a rush because we can't wait this out. We need to get done. It just made it feel like a Friday night, which to me,
Don't you have that expression? Friday nights are fun.
no. Friday nights are great, but Friday nights,
They're every Friday.
yeah, it's every Friday, but they're also like. You've only got 15 minutes, you know. You've got to rush it in. There's no time for strategy, really. Like there is, but a small strategy.
Maybe not for pirates.
No, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. When there's no time limit, you can actually strategize. You can wait for a mistake to happen. You can take advantage of that. But when there's a time limit, you must do it. You must get it done, and it didn't feel real. And that's what I miss.
I totally get what you mean. I'm sorry, I feel like you get priority from now every second.
Okay.
They bring back day games potentially, and day games are exactly that battle feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they're a battle that goes all day. they're a battle in, like, usually in like a public park, occasionally with children's play equipment. It gets real. It gets real quick. A hill like this steep with paths becomes the most epic Swordcraft experience you'll have, because there'll be a 15-minute grind of healers desperately trying to heal people on a hill, people being worried about lob shots. Day games will help with that, hopefully.
I heard something about day games possibly coming back.
Yeah,
I heard that I don't
it's
know
from
where
the
it was.
hearsay, but I'm campaigning for
It's
it.
hearsay at this present moment in time.
Yeah, but like that sounds amazing. Like I would like that.
I think
Right,
that
someone's asked a question in the chat that I'm going to jump into, which is related to what we're talking about to a certain degree.
Is it Brett?
Someone come up with the question of, had we got rid of the overarching objectives in Quest, do you think the roleplay would be better? So like if you're removing the concept of getting the crown pieces or killing off the avatars or going under an avatar.
no,
Sorry, go on.
no, I don't think so. I think it's good to have something, but
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, it was one battle was suddenly it's a battle for all the crown pieces. So what was the point of picking them up along the way? I
Yeah.
guess. And then the next one was like a
Balance.
fight to take back the crown piece, the crown itself or something.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It was-
it didn't come across very well and wasn't. I felt like it wasn't
Yeah.
played very well. Is what you're trying to
Yeah.
get at.
I guess.
And
Yeah.
So it felt like, because I don't think it was supposed to be designed that way originally.
Yeah. The stakes were so high every time.
Yeah.
But I think what could have helped is breaking up these objectives in a way that everyone, like, people knew about, like with the tower game.
Yeah, but I don't think it'd necessarily improve the roleplay overall, because it is
Yeah.
just that different level of roleplay. Like there's the political game and there's the Senate game and
Yeah.
there's the smaller just interactions you have. And like it's all roleplay, but I guess it could all be surrounding the overarching
Yeah.
theme, but yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure.
I agree. Like having those main objectives really helps to keep the story going, and but at the same time, like you were saying, there should be the other quests at the same time. You need to find that balance, like you were saying.
Here's a thought.
Or
Like,
that you weren't saying, but I got the gist.
here's a thought. But things felt very separate from each other in terms of guilds, and like the Senate, I feel like, as I said, didn't have much to do with anything, whereas it did the previous quest.
Yep.
So perhaps that would have more of these kind of roleplay circles interacting with each other, making people feel like there's more going on and more interdependency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
I think
complete
there is
those
a certain
stories.
element of this being the final quest for the current storyline and going into a new game. I think really did put a lot of different pressure. Like I think a lot of people stopped going through the underworld quests as an example because I thought it was just going to not mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't really portray that all the underworld itself will exist in the new world as if it's always been there.
Yeah.
So all the quests that you've been on as if you've already been on them in the new world. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people don't realise that. And so thus a lot of people didn't push and continue on through the underworld last quest because they thought it was just the end of the world, so it's going to reset and become
Yeah.
something new.
I had a similar sort of experience. Peterson walked up to me and was like, yeah, do you want to do that second shade quest? Like, you can do it. And I was like, it's not going to matter, the world's resetting. This is what I'm thinking, not realising that
Yeah.
he absolutely means to bring all that stuff to the new
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
If
So
shades exist.
So it's little bits and pieces. It's just the
Yeah.
overall arc is what's changing.
Yeah.
But like all those little bits and pieces.
The ingredients.
The
are still
ingredients.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. That's still
It's just
coming across.
like
That's-
Mexican cooking. You can make lots of different things with the same ingredients.
Yeah.
Put it this way, so the underworld's a good example is like, the underworld's a good example because I don't want to force people who've already gone into the guild to go and, oh cool, you've done all these quests, just go do them again because, you know, that's the way it
Yeah.
is. No, I don't want to do that because you did a really good job beforehand and finding the energy to do the exact same quests again and try and make them different, it's not that great.
Yeah. My character got like 30 copper in debt to the exchange as part of the campaign.
30 copper debt.
Yeah.
Well, that's carrying over.
I picked
That's
up-
a very good
carrying
one
over.
because your daddy's carrying over. People
Yeah.
don't realise.
Yeah.
A lot of people taking out loans from the exchange realising that's carrying over.
I picked up 2/3 of that for doing a random autograph.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too much to make back. But I thought that's interesting, and I'm happy to do this because that gives me some kind of interesting roleplay dynamic going into the new world. Like I would have been like it would have been a bit shallow if it was erased at the end of the game.
So
I'm
that
happy.
Templar that lost all that money to me at the casino every single night, that debt's come back to haunt you, dude.
Going
And you can
back,
thank me for that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of washed
See
up,
you next quest.
gamblers. Yeah.
well, going back to the question about nerfing like major arts to improve roleplay, I think it needs to be more. Whilst it's a major plot in the storyline, I think there needs to be lots of like little sneaky ways and more like kind of side quests in order to build into that major arc. That way, therefore that increases roleplay, but it also increases the amount of fun people have interacting with each other, and more warbands getting involved, because it's not all just this. We're going to go into battle. We're going to get the crown pieces. It's like, sneaky little side quests. You go into the underworld. You talk to the right people. You go kill the right people, and you take that crown piece, and there's no other option is to go, through that quest. But it's up to you how you roleplay it, how, you get it. But that person that holds that crown piece will hold that crown piece until it's taken away.
All right.
One thing I've been wanting to say.
One thing. All right.
One of 51. No, it's okay. Everyone
my
rushed to
list?
kill off the characters en masse.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
it was weird. It felt really forced. Even Mama Sierra was doing it. Like,
then
and I
changing
love
their
her.
minds halfway
I absolutely love her to pieces, and she might even be in the chat right now. But yeah, no, everyone was rushing to kill off their characters all at the same time, from the Hawkmeisters to the traders to
Yeah.
some random guy. Like everyone was doing it, and it just felt like, okay, I'm glad that someone cast Death Wish on the populace.
Yes, it is a bit unfortunate that the gang warfare didn't pan out as well as they could have last quest. Organisers still want it to happen, and we're just going to go through and probably change the way it works. We're not sure yet how, but we do want to bring it back in strength because it's a lot of fun. And it worked really well at Cryle, and we could make it work again. I think it was just logistics became a really big issue for this quest, but because we're going back there again, we have a much better idea, and we should be able to pull something off and have a bit more fun with the gang warfare as well.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm going to jump into the next question. This question is specifically for one person here. Okay, but however, a reason why I'm jumping into this particular question, because this is a question that, this is an issue, I should say, that it's been in, I don't know if it's Soulcraft or if it's in LARP. I'm pretty sure it's in LARP as well, but the reason why I say Soulcraft is because of the general size of Soulcraft, the general amount of people coming in. I never really witnessed any of this when I was in the big European LARP. It's because I don't speak the language at the same time, so I don't even understand what they're saying. So I don't have the same problem. And the problem, there was actually two problems associated with this, but I'm only going to focus on one of the two problems. So, at the front of the Shisha Den, or near the front of the Shisha Den, in an alleyway, some sort of RP was happening with another player who had their tent in the same area. And that RP was happening essentially out in the alleyway, but at the front of their tent. And there was this notion that that roleplay was kind of like a private role-playing, even though it was in an alleyway. So, being that it was in the alleyway, it was still in the view of the public. So from my perspective about going through that and coming at the end of all that was, to me, as an organiser and someone who's been doing LARPing and role-playing for quite some time, is that if you're in a public space where the public can see you, then you have to accept whatever role-playing comes your way. So if people decide to get involved and stop it from happening, then that's part of the game. So the question, I think I've just answered my whole question already. Because we discussed this before the stream went live, so we probably had that discussion would have been better to actually come out here. So I apologise for that. So the question is to you. Like we've already gone through this. You probably agree now and understand the concept now. Is that if you're going into a situation where you're in a public space, irrelevant of where that public space is, you have to accept that other people are going to get involved, and you can't stop them, and you just have to play with them.
I think it was more, it wasn't more of a, stop them kind of thing. Being new to Swordcraft, this past spring quest was only my second quest. Plus having someone from our Newcastle chapter, who it was their first quest.
Yep.
We weren't really sure what to expect, what to jump into, and it more caught us off guard than anything, because my first spring quest, I was with the Imperials. Hey guys, shout out to you. I didn't actually get to do a lot of role playing. You know, it was kind of just in and out of the ranks. You know, it was always the captains being spoken to. So for me, role playing to such a degree and such intensity, it was very new. I wasn't sure what to expect, so it caught me off guard where, you know, it was just essentially, you caught me off guard, I don't know what's going on anymore, what just happened.
So you probably panicked, I guess, a little bit?
Yeah, it was definitely a panic out of character, kind of a duck out of character moment, going, you know, what the hell? You know, so it kind of frazzled me a little bit. It wasn't intentionally, you know, hey, back off, stay out of our roleplay. It was kind of just you caught us off guard, we don't know what's happening, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine, and that's a good example of where you're coming from, because you're just the only person, you're the recent version of this scenario happening. So that's why I'm bringing it to you.
We did actually have a bit of a chat, just quickly out of character, about the people in the Shisha Den, and you know, how to go about the situation, because we'd never had interactions of that kind before. So it was a bit more fun when we actually got to. They let us re-role play it. You know, one of my associates actually ducked their head into the Shisha Den, you know, threw a couple of copper and, you know, kind of paid them off, and that made it a lot better.
Yes.
So if I reckon if they had have come to us going, oh, you know, give us some copper and we'll look the other way, that would have been fine. But yeah, kind of just like jumping us straight away. We hit the panic button. We're like, oh my god, what is this?
Yeah.
That is a very good example of what happened. A lot of people do hit the panic button. They don't fully understand how to do things.
Yeah.
And which is fine. Absolutely fine. It's going to happen. On my personal level, and this is always a big thing, a big issue of discussion, is about how consent works in all sort of role playing. So if you go into a role playing scenario, and the very first thing you do in that role playing scenario is first actually ask for consent, I think that ruins the role play.
It makes it a little inorganic.
It makes it inorganic, that's correct. However,
I can agree with you there.
However, you do need to have consent.
Yeah.
So what needs to actually happen is to have that consent as the role play.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So instead of going out of character, going, oh, we want to do this, blah, 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 so on and so forth, no. Create it as part of the role playing. And in the European LARPs, especially the Italian LARPs that I went to recently, was about escalation. So instead of just going straight hammer and tongs straight into what you want to role play, start a lot smaller, and then back and forth with that particular players or that player about can we go further, how far farther can we go? And in the European LARPs, it was always about one key phrase that they always used, which was, is that the best you got?
Yeah.
Which is it's a very terminology that they used, and that meant it was a role-playing response, but it meant exactly that. Is that the best you got? Which I'm basically giving you permission to actually go a little bit higher. You know? So for this particular thing, it's more about, especially hopefully a lot of the younger people who are just new to LARP or just getting to this or just coming to quests and stuff like that, is that several points is that, yes, you need to have consent, just try and make that consent role-playing, and that everyone is involved. Okay? Everyone's involved. So if a warband of 30 people suddenly come through and in the middle of your role-playing, they hack you down because that's just what they wanted to do, that's part of the game.
It's interesting. Sorry. I want to let these two talk whenever they want to.
All right. You mentioned like if it's in a public space, you have to go with it.
Yes.
I don't know about that, but I do agree with like we as players should learn and be good at like signaling, you know, making offers and reading whether or not it's appropriate to keep going.
Yeah. It's like you've got a team to do your thing, so you always have someone to do a bit of a lookout, stuff like that. So if a big warband of 30 people are coming through, hacking people left, right, and centre like the rats do on a regular basis. So it's kind of like, oh, quick, round the corner so they don't see it. It's all part of the game, and if you understand it's all part of the game, you actually will get more out of it.
Yeah, but like even simpler things like we've got an important meeting or whatever, like it's like Cheswick's on both has done it both ways, like either as the peasants going around annoying people and hassling, and then reading, oh, these people, you know, we've hassled them, but they've got other stuff to do. Let's move on. And even as like the snobby nobles, like having our meetings, and someone comes up and we're like, oh no, go away, please. Like you can be a dick in character. And get it across. I don't like the idea of shutting it down out of character.
Yeah, it just happens accidentally sometimes. But it is an issue that I have seen people don't fully understand it. So it's a case of understanding that it happens and trying not to double down.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you bribed people, because whenever I do a role play, I'm obviously part of Chaos, and usually there's a few people with a firm stance on that, particularly in going to the new game. So before we do anything in a public space or a private space, there's usually 1 to 2 hours of making, like, basically, filleting the right phalluses, or, like, bribing the right people and just going through things. We go through hours of preparation to make sure that we won't get ganked in the street. For doing what we do, which is why people started calling us lawful evil at one point. But what we had to do to survive, because we've gotten unfortunately very good at it. But yeah, for example, when I did the shiny ritual in the middle of town without a license, we had to like spend ages like making sure that the Lord Commander knew that I was going to do it. And our warband, one of my warband leaders, Brett, went straight to the Lord Commander. Got him to give him a blank license, which I then filled out with whatever I wanted. My abilities were, yes, please.
Big check.
Pretty much, yeah, and which I ended up losing before the end of quest. It was, so we spent a lot of time making sure that our private role plays, our big role plays, our big events, in character, we spent ages making sure that these go off without a hitch, or we know they're going to get interrupted, and that's okay, because we have plenty where that's the plan. But we spend hours in character and out of character planning it. Because, and that's probably a little bit of metagame, but I'm always kind of... I have a weird relationship with metagame in that you use it a tiny bit because the stories that get told are the ones where people survive to the end. It's a 1 in 1,000 chance for a soldier to survive a battle where only one person survives, but no one cares about the 999 who died. The story's about the one that survived. Yeah. So it's okay to be that soldier for the sake of the story or the sake of a LARP or something like that, because that's how stories work. But that's the upwards limit of metagame. You can occasionally use it to survive impossible odds because that'll make a good story.
I don't know if it's related, but we have a similar approach to secrets in our warband. I think Mads mentioned it last stream, but like a secret's no fun if it's just your character that knows about it. We kind of strive for, if you're in on something shady, try and get pull other people into it.
Yeah, that's actually very important, to actually pull other people. That's part of the reason why, if you're going to get interrupted in your role playing, then bring other people in with it, so you don't get interrupted and they're being involved as well. Which it becomes its own problem, because then you've got to start herding cats again. But
you wouldn't know anything about that.
No, not at all.
Oh, Order of the Black Rose.
Shh, no salt.
It wasn't salt. It's vinegar.
All right.
Thanks for getting that.
We are going to have a quick break. To go to the toilet, so like we'll probably be about 10 minutes, and then we will come back.
We need more chips.
Don't have any more chips.
Someone gets more salty.
If we're taking a 10-minute break, I'm going to bring out some.
You volunteered, yeah?
know what happened there.
Welcome back.
I know, I passed out for a minute. I woke up and you hold my hand. I mean, what? Come on, guy.
I think
Look,
I just
I like to
completely
say
blacked out of that
it's
scenario,
consensual.
like-
I think.
What did you do to me?
Alright.
I thought we had something. Why are you pretending it like doesn't mean anything?
Alright, so welcome back everyone. I hope you enjoyed yourselves and your break and went to the toilet and all that type of stuff.
I forgot.
You did too.
I drank this!
You're like the second one in line and we just started walking back into you to follow.
I'd be more surprised if that bottle's full again.
Yeah. There's your toilet.
Oh,
I don't know about the logistics.
you've got some...
I'm a bit bigger than that.
No, all you need is some rubber
No
hose
whipping it out,
connecting...
Fred.
You just need some rubber hose connecting that to that. It's
my
easy.
warband
We've
actually
got
just
duct
had a
tape
talk
over there.
about me-
That's... Put the pencil down.
Oh, yeah,
God.
there you go.
My woman actually just had a talk about my jokes specifically. In general, just Freddie level of jokes, but everyone was making them. We're dialing it back a bit.
Yeah. How's that even possible?
Well, I won't be attending.
I wish I was true. Of course it's highbrow content. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we
This is very
every time I say something, everyone raises their eyebrows. Highbrow content. Look at Tim, you do it every time.
Get out.
Look, that wasn't even a pun. That's just comedy.
You don't deserve to be in the room. Go away.
Does any of us deserve to be here? If you guys do, then I've missed the memo.
Alright, alright, let's get into some questions. So I've given them a lead up to this question and they still couldn't answer it, so let's see how they go this time. Let's see if I can quantify this question properly. If you had a lot of resources at your disposal, and a town was being built, what would you bring to that town and run yourself?
Alright, well I've got a few in-character sort of answers. My big one would be a lot of out-of-character facilities. To, but a lot of out-of-character... Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. A lot of out-of-character
I gave
facilities
that
so
idea.
that we can roleplay without having to worry about, things so out-of-character facilities, the tavern's nice, the food's nice, but just something that, you make that sort of out-of-character stuff a bit more set up and a bit separate to everything else. Because a lot of the meals, for example, in the tavern weren't exactly period or anything, but that's fine, and I super want stuff like that to be a quest, but maybe its own sort of space for it. Yeah, and also the other thing I would do is just a huge amount of more in-character food, available, around. Because we're going for camping and we're going for what's convenient. I'm so sorry.
I had two, and you took them both.
A lot of
Selfish.
a lot of in-character food. Quest is turning into a festival, hence the name change.
Yeah.
And medieval festivals have medieval food. And that's a thing. And I reckon we can do that. And I reckon that we don't take away any of the out-of-character food. In fact, we make it better, but we have more of both. I don't know about anyone else here, but I'm very food-oriented.
We could tell.
Paella for all.
No, just because he keeps talking about food.
Thanks, Dad.
Selling a food cart that sells fruits and loaves of bread would actually not be that hard to do.
And you could do it entirely in character. You could do it entirely in character. You could have people who don't have any character coin, chuck me a gold coin, Australian coin. You have it out of character out the back, entrance at rear. When I say that, it comes on. It takes a different meaning, doesn't it?
It's very, very...
But no, it's and one of the things we sort of, one of the dreams that we sort of have, and if we had a lot more money, we would do this in a heartbeat, but we're still working out logistics, it's just in-character bread. In-character breads, in-character, cakes. I pulled out a 14th century hand-raised pork pie recipe, which won at Crowell Castle Savoury. I keep those tags on my staff. Feel free to check them out on Fridays. I pulled out all these ancient recipes for bread and stuff, and then worked on them so they taste good, because 14th century. But you can find a balance there. So more in character food and more infrastructure in and out of character.
That's a really good answer.
Thanks, Dad. Oh, sorry, Daddy.
Oh my.
You paid me a compliment, I had to undercut it.
Of course, that's just you in a nutshell.
Look, if
I
I'm in a
was
nutshell,
going to quote Raymond Holt, but I forgot the line.
so sorry. If I was in a nutshell, a bit more like.
Answer the question before Freddie continues.
Let's move on.
I should have gone first. I'm not letting you go first again.
Go now.
No, because now he's taken both of mine. I didn't think it was up and new.
We'll steal yours now.
Shut up!
Stop it.
A
Staring
good
into my soul.
resource to have would be just like a purely out of character space. So, I mean, the Shisha Den.
Sorry.
I will throw this ball at you. Don't make me throw the ball at you. I mean, the Shisha Den is great, but it kind of muddles the line between out of character and in character, because I know a lot of people will go, you know, out of character to relax there, but you know, then you have people that come in character, and it can kill the whole vibe when you're just trying to unwind and relax from the day. So maybe just like a large marquee, you know, lots of like, you know, soft cushions and stuff for people to lounge over and just sit there and talk and de-stress, rather than, you know, having to worry about people coming in character, people coming out of character. You know, it's just that one set space for people just to be purely out of character, you know, revive themselves and just, you know, maybe get a refreshment or two.
So you mean a large pavilion with lots of couches?
Yeah,
With some
essentially.
shisha there.
No, I won't,
No, it can't.
I won't take that away from these guys, because one of my warband's favourite things at Quest was to go to the Shisha Den, and I must say it was amazing, especially the Wednesday night when, you know, half of the highwaymen went and we all got the giggles for like a good solid hour. Just could not stop laughing, but it was definitely a good way to, you know, de-stress. But having that space like purely out of character, I think would be beneficial for a lot of people, especially people that are non-combatants, that may not always be in character all the time. Just a space for them to kind of just like chill out with their friends and talk.
The out of character pavilion that they had set up, I think one of the problems with it is that it was a pavilion with nothing much in it. Like even if the most
There wasn't even chairs.
There wasn't even chairs and stuff like that. It's like a few chairs, a few tables, probably like, you know, just some instant coffee and tea and stuff like that set up
Didn't even
there
see
would have
that.
been.
Where was this?
That's what I'm saying. This is what it probably should have been.
Oh, it's one of those little
Yeah.
ones.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it was just an empty pavilion with nothing there to do.
Yeah.
If
Having
you
a,
just had like a rug and like some bean bags or something,
I was
that'd
going
be
to say,
pretty
like,
chill.
introducing, like, putting in, like, modern board games and stuff like that, so people, like, you know, play some board games.
Board
And,
games.
yeah, don't make it too fun. Don't make it too fun. No one will role play.
Jumping castles.
well, I mean,
Yeah. No, but that's yeah.
just
Quest,
have,
your
like, a whole,
entire
like,
camp will be a
medieval,
jumping
like,
castle.
jumping castle.
You
Yeah.
wanna
Okay.
But yeah, having a clearer distinction would be good.
Yeah.
Also, like after dark, I'm still ready to keep role playing, but everyone's out. Like, oh.
I actually agree. I
Yeah.
keep going. I don't stop till almost midnight half
Yeah.
the time. And the underworld stuff generally does keep going. But we're probably one of the very few people. But everyone else is sort of like after they've had their dinner, just sit down and just relax, which is legitimate because you've probably spent a good 12 hours of your day already doing a lot of stuff that you just want to sit down
Yeah.
and relax and rest, because you got to consider that, yeah, he's probably spending 16 hours of your day trying to do all this role playing. You can't, especially over 7 days.
Yeah, it gets way too exhausting.
Yeah.
Sweet.
In saying that, it still would be good if people understood that role playing went way past 6, 7, whatever it is, that existed right until the late nights. But you don't have to do it. You just relax back at your your camp or whatever it is that you need to relax.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We're trying to create a separate space where, yes, people who are role playing after 6 p.m. aren't getting interrupted by people that aren't, you know, role playing and aren't wanting to be in character, especially when it comes to things like being in the tavern, because people are still in character in the tavern. Some people are out of character. It can really muddle people up, because it's like, oh, now I have to be in character, or now I have to be out of character to talk to people. So having that really separate, like, designated space would be, you know, a really good contribution to be able to do that sort of thing.
I have a really clear memory of one of my earlier quests. At 3 a.m, trying to figure out how to go to the bathrooms because orcs in character were guarding the road, and I was too tired to go around. So my warband is sitting there with me, planning one to distract so the rest of us can go pee. I mean, there's a too far always in character, and we found it. but it was exhilarating. Not every, but we were all dudes. We don't, you know, there's like, you know, that we could hold it a bit longer, but like that's not an option.
At 3 a.m.
It's not an option at 3 a.m. and the role playing, even though we were bad at it, we never stopped role playing. We were at night in our tents, in our communal tent one quest, where someone spilled kerosene on the first night, so we all got like gassed. But like we never stopped role playing the entire night as we like got into the cuddle pile, except Jake, who wouldn't let anyone touch him.
White Banded Enders wouldn't work to be out of character because people would just lose it left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And or forget.
Yeah.
Or not bother.
Well, it was so there are there's balance in all things, but I feel like we're on a different swing.
The
Sorry.
yellow sashes are more for non-combative role larpers.
Yeah.
They weren't for out of character reasons.
Yeah.
No, what the yellow sashes are for? Because I remember my dad came to a quest and he had no interest in role playing, but I made him dress up anyway and role play, and he did, but. Because that was like kind of the rule. The rules as written, the yellow sash says that if you get attacked, you can't get hit, but if someone is in the position to kill you, you die immediately. You're not immune to death. You're not an out of character player. You are a person who doesn't want to get hit, and that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. Someone comes by you with a sword, all they have to do, or you do in response, especially to the yellow sessions, is like, I'm dead.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. In regards to like the white headbands and stuff, it's like, yes, whilst you can wear them in camp, going outside of camp, they may be mistaken for headwear because, you know, there are a lot of warbands that do have white in their colours and everything, so, you know, it's easy to stumble across that problem and, you know, having to switch out of character going, oh, is that an out of character headband or is that a headpiece? Can really put a dampener on roleplay and, you know, make it really confusing.
Yeah, having a space rather than an item.
Yeah, exactly. It's more beneficial to have a space for people to just congregate in rather than trying to figure out, oh, is that person out of character, is that person in character? So, yeah, just having that actual space.
You three, do you guys have anything?
Yes, I want to jump in before someone else steals my ideas.
Porta potties for every camp.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's right, that wasn't mine, but I think that was hers. Ha-ha!
What?
Toilets in every camp. Imagine how great that would be.
That
Yeah,
would
but
be
that wasn't
amazing.
really the gameplay. It was just
Yeah.
like, it would be nicer if I didn't
If I
have
had
to walk all the way up
$50,000,
the
that's
hill.
what I'd do.
That's right.
I'm
I'm just happy they're stealing someone else's ideas for a change.
Well, I have my
Anyway,
own
so
ideas.
I did have some great ideas which are now basically little shreds.
No, well, they're still, it's all there. It's just
Yeah.
burst through like the Kool-Aid man.
Yeah, well, like, if I had one...
Answer the goddamn question. Ready.
So, Josh, what is your idea?
Well, what I would love to happen is for, like, all of Quest to be completely in character, besides from one gazebo, one area that is out of character, which is out of the way, which they tried to do this quest, but no one really knew about because it was, like, over near the medic's tent, which was great, but no one knew about it. And like you said, there was nothing in there. It was just an empty gazebo. So it needs to be better. Yeah, needs to be a better setup for that, so that everywhere else can be in character, because that's what they want to do, and that's what we should do. All of Quest, everywhere, even in camps, in character. The only out of character is maybe in your tents and that one designated out of character area. Now, I did come up with another idea because these guys already stole that one, which I have spoken to other people about this in the past, and it's, you know, it's a great idea. It was just the funding, which is for the PvE areas. Something which would be cool is like, you know, in your roleplay games where you go into like a dungeon. If we have a dungeon, and there's things that you can actually buy, it's an inflatable dungeon. It's like got brickwork on the outside, and inside it's pitch black, so you can light it with lanterns and stuff. It's so expensive, and they Velcro in different sections. You can Velcro them together and make it cool, and then use that as like a dungeon. So you can actually get a band together, go in there. There'll be monsters hidden that you need to fight, things like that. It'd be great.
I actually have
I was about to
plans
say.
for doing that type of stuff, except that there's one big major problem. At a minimum to run such a thing, I would need 20 NPCs, of which there is a rotation of about 6, give or take.
Yeah. That's one of the other setbacks.
So that's one of the setbacks. Transportation of this stuff,
yeah.
logistics of transporting it,
Yeah.
and making sure you're running it. It needs dedicated people. That's all they're doing at Quest.
Yeah. You know what? This is the exact conversation I had with someone, and I think you might have been him.
Might have been.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I've spoken to other people, and they've everyone thinks it's a great idea, but the logistics isn't there. But if we had enough funding, like you said, if you've got an exorbitant amount of funds, one wish that would make it amazing.
Oh, absolutely. A dungeon would be fantastic.
Yeah, a dungeon. Oh,
well,
just think about it.
That was kind of similar to my idea. I was going to say...
Well, you did talk about that out of it, so I technically did steal it.
Look, no one steals your ideas. They're not freaking trademark. I didn't see your name across the...
Wait, they could be.
I had a watermark clearly
ideas, so I can just steal them.
Always happy to be your
It's not a stream.
You finished that Coke, didn't you? I was going to take some.
Oh my god. Did he steal your coat too, Josh?
He did. He not only steal it, you're just a thief. You're just a
I'm
thief.
sorry. I'm sorry. Do you want to
Wait, pass that off camera to me.
No.
Yeah, didn't
No.
But like,
I wouldn't expect much from a pirate. Come on.
That's the visual gag.
Well, let's cover the earth.
Take it up.
Okay.
Alright,
Give it to me.
but no, some more
No, wait,
like
never mind.
PvE type areas
so
would be
sorry.
really cool. But even just if we had the funding, some cool monsters or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's logistics of getting it all there and even putting it together. And I think that might actually be on the horizon because I know they've changed some of the siege and epic creature rules. I think.
So you mean like NPC monsters?
Yeah.
Like
even.
epic creatures, but they're
Well-
NPCs? That would be amazing.
Like a
I know.
treant.
But it was
Like a
something.
what?
Sorry.
Treant.
That was from the other
Just to
conversation at
ask,
the break.
Are you talking about monsters in like a sense that anyone can kind of team up and kill them, or is it still going to be like, say rude warriors being able to kill certain
I think a bit of anything would be good because
I think
Runor is
having NPC monsters where anyone
Yeah.
can just like gang up and just loot whatever out of it would be really interesting.
I think it'd be
Yeah.
really good, but also I've
Well,
seen
see, that's
in
sorry.
types
No,
of LARPs like Empire.
Yeah.
I've watched a few videos about Empire, and they all actually take NPC shifts.
Yeah.
Like I think it's only
Which
a
is what you
weekend
were talking
game,
about.
but
Yeah.
if everyone just signed up for 1 or 2 shifts for the whole week, which is practically nothing, it could actually really change the gameplay.
Yeah.
It'd be really
And
cool
so
to add
that-
more stories in that isn't purely
Yeah.
player driven.
And see, that's what I was talking about with the PvE that was supposed to happen at this quest, and
Yeah.
the dungeon idea was having monsters that you can actually, get a group together, get a band together, and go and try and overcome it, like in an MMORPG, which is just freaking amazing. I would love that in Swordcraft Quest. That would just be amazing.
It's happened.
I just love how you say dungeon with like such emphasis and
Oh, yeah, I want it. I want it.
See,
That's like my favourite
You
part
put
of
the fun in
MMORPG is the dungeons. You get a group of people together, you go and you surround it, there's this massive monster, you gotta take it down, you gotta loot the shit out of it.
So,
see, I have heard
Let's
stories.
make this happen.
Oh my god.
David, what do you think?
No,
of these
Jess was gonna
I
say
was
something.
just gonna.
Passionate, are you?
Not at all.
Oh
Not
my
at
God.
all.
You're gonna break the table.
I know, just me.
Make Warcraft NPCs.
You've got spares, yeah?
Yeah, like
Alright.
Swordcraft NPCs.
Before you go on with yours, I want to just interject with that one because there's this mentality that you need NPCs.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
Okay? There are war bands that fight other war bands, and all you have to do is get them to fight each other.
Yeah.
And they're your NPCs, and you make your little plots and all your little things so it'll work around those particular warbands. And there are warbands out there who are happy to do this type of stuff, who want to get involved. So you don't need NPCs. And you find that when you're running it that way, especially like we've got like orcs, we've got like Skaven, we're going to have all these different things in the New World especially. Use these people not as NPCs,
Yeah, they came to
as
play
their
it.
players.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a great idea, and that definitely we should do that. But like, I'm thinking one massive, like a boss level monster that you've got to try and overcome. That's the kind of thing that I was thinking.
Okay, am I allowed to talk about quests older than 5 years ago on stream?
No, I know we used to have stuff like that.
I know, because I'm just talking about why it didn't work. That's what I wanted to
Yeah, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, why-
Okay,
Yeah.
so there was a quest a long time ago, and back when Conga was actually more organizer than just pillar of the community, And he eventually got, I'm not sure what happened there, and I'm not going to go into it, even though I do know what happened there. But yeah, so one of the quests he fully organised from the ground up, and he got a couple of the warbands to full NPC. Anyone could get a cheaper ticket for Swordcraft by being an NPC the entire time. People were shifting as well, but you could get a cheaper ticket by being full NPC.
That's a great idea.
Actually. So the Van Warren at the time made a snow elf version of all of their kit.
Yeah.
Some really tall. There was a bunch of money. The Conga asked the board for a certain amount of money. They gave him less than he wanted, so he actually used his own funds to like build it up and say that you can pay me back later. There's a whole
Which
thing.
never happened, I'm assuming.
No salt here.
Go on. What was the point?
So he recouped his losses, and that's one of the reasons he started Conga's creation.
Okay.
He did recoup his losses, but they didn't pay him back enough. But we had all these NPCs. We had these epic creatures. We had Mecha being a minotaur that had 45 HP and special abilities based on how many people were fighting him. It was crazy, and Mecha's huge. Package is huge because this is Package the Treant, and it was terrifying. We were walking around the streets, but and there were all these quests. People would bring their own sort of quest. People would bring their own like quest MacGuffins and give them to the NPCs, and the NPCs would be sort of organised and like thing. And it was fine, except then all of the warbands moved into the forest and watched the NPCs, waiting for them to be a character, and killed them because there was nothing else to do.
They what?
They would just...
They
spawn camped. They spawn camped the NPCs, and the Van Warren didn't take anyone's crap, now or then. Particularly then. Yeah. So there was this huge epic feeling, and a lot of players were having a lot of fun. But what happens when you have when you have something that can happen, when you have a situation where it can be everyone versus a very small group, and Tim will talk about this for hours about why that doesn't work, and so will I. But it means there wasn't any organic fighting between factions, which is the best way to do it. There was just a huge amount of organic fighting against a very small group, who granted had extra abilities and stuff in character, and they got sick. The elves were getting bruised, not because people were hitting too hard, but because they were just getting hit so much. And that was one of the last quests where this happened. There was beastmen, and it was this awesome feeling, and actually, and there just wasn't enough stuff beyond that. Nathan Cleary actually came up, and I'm just name dropping here. Nathan Cleary actually was one of the first warbands to go, okay, this is not just okay. We're gonna run a quest to people. And the Guardians of the day, called the Guardians, they were a warband. They would eventually, some of their members would go on to become Sekonze, and a couple of other different groups. But they also started to run their own. They ran their own quests for other players. They were like, okay, we're going to find a warband. We're going to run through a quest. We're going to GM them a little bit. People just decided out of character to run that sort of stuff for each other in character, and it worked. And I'm not sure what happened to it because I was gone for 4 years. But that's what it was evolving from, because while having designated NPCs. Even though you weren't suggesting for the entire event, you guys were suggesting shifts, it ended up being terrible for them. No one wanted to do it anymore. Right. Imagine if you were the town, imagine, for a really basic example, imagine if you were a town guard for all of Quest. Yeah. And this happened fairly recently. The Kurohasu decided to do that 2 quests ago. And I talked to all of them, and they had no fun.
Yeah. And
it sucks, and you sacrifice your own fun for other people's, but at the end of the day, everyone's paying to be there, and everyone can have fun. There is a balance there.
Well, now talking about all the bad and the logistics of it, let's hear what David has to say about the one thing he put into Quest.
Sorry, did you say something about the NPCs being paid or something?
Not paid, sorry. NPCs paying to be there.
Ah, okay. So
the NPCs were paying to be there. It was a reduced rate, but everyone's paying at Soulcraft to have fun. I want everyone to remind. If there's a takeaway, remember you're paying to have fun. Role playing is fun, but role playing cannot be.
Freddie dropping some hot Swordcraft history.
Well, pretty much. I'm full of it, and not just mostly hot air and shit.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I can think of two.
Anyway, let's jump over to David.
I can think of 2 things.
Cool.
I think, firstly, it's not a drastic idea, but I think a more defined town square kind of with the different stalls along each side, and maybe with like a scaffold or platform, or whatever, with stuff happening on it all the time, whether that's like plays or speeches or hangings or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because
That'd be really cool.
like this past quest, I felt like one end of town was a street, and then it kind of just fizzled out.
Yeah. And the stalls kind of got mixed up with camps.
Yeah, some of the stalls were way out. It was weird.
It's
Yeah.
actually very difficult. Like, say,
Yeah.
let's talk Laszlo and that group of people there who always like to have their store with their camp.
Fair.
So just try and separate their actual store and
Yep.
put it in a place that's sort of with other holiday stores to create that cool marketplace.
Yep.
Is something that they generally like to also have their camping spot near it as well.
Yep.
But unfortunately, your camping spot suddenly just gets in the way. Like in their particular case, their camping spots are usually in character, so it's just a case of organisation. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
organisation really, and you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
So they kind of tried to do it, but yeah, it didn't quite work.
That was pretty good. Even more extreme was Cryo Quest, which was so spread out. I wasn't a big fan of that. But yeah, just I don't know. I went for a couple walks, like, oh, I'll see what's going on in town, and it was a bit spread out for me. But maybe like a building to add, or I think could be, and I think there's like the beginnings of it is like a guild hall or something for like the in-character merchants that are popping up, like Michael Van Sleeve doing the dwarven guy. That was really cool. Not that I got involved in it, but the kind of people who want to do trade of things for in-character money, I think it's really cute, and we should like foster that and have like storylines around that, perhaps guild competition, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And there used to be the Rangers or Adventurers Guild or something where you could go and get little quests to do stuff. It was
Yeah.
at Mafeking.
That's a good one.
I
That's a good
really,
one to
really
bring up.
liked that. It was super good and easy for me to... First quest, had no clue what I was doing.
He
And then you
was the big problem with the Adventurers Guild. Okay, we got a player, someone who played for a full player ticket to run that for us, and they spent pretty much most of their day and probably part of their evening just running that guild.
That's
They
fine.
barely had any of the time of their own, and because it was such a low-level entry thing, it was just rushed by hundreds of people all the time doing quests and stuff like that. And it burnt that player out. That's why he closed it down a day early, so he wasn't there on the Friday.
Yeah.
So he could actually have some time to himself. Yes, it was a great thing to have, but to run it is insanely hard.
Yeah.
We're paying to have fun. Remember that.
Maybe an approach to take.
The reason why I'm able to get away with doing the Shisha Den is because if I tried to do that Shisha Den by myself, I would not be able to do it. Simple as that. I have a great crew. They are absolutely, unbelievably fantastic. And if it wasn't for them, like a lot of people see me as the underworld and the Shisha Den, but it's not true anymore. Like I started it when there was only a small amount of people who were coming into the underworld. Now that I have a bigger underworld and a Shisha Den, it is no longer just mine.
Yeah.
And I have a great crew of people. And that's what you got to consider when you're doing these type of things. If you have all these pie and sky type ideas, you really need to sort of get help doing these things.
Although you did, the question was if we had unlimited resources.
Correct.
Yeah.
And every time we mentioned these crazy ideas that would take a lot of resources, you're like, well, it would take a lot of resources. And we're like, wasn't that,
That was the
point?
question.
Well, I do like David's idea about having like just a kind of scaffold, but one thing that just popped into my head and quickly just mentioned about plays and stuff. It's like how funny would it be to have like these in character, plays and kind of foster that sense of, in a way, community amongst the player base in character. War bands that hate each other, sitting right next to each other, enjoying this funny show or dramatic show put on by other people in character. Having little acts and performances throughout the day, gives someone.
You have no idea how much I want to put on a performance of Jesus Christ Superstar or something.
No!
No!
Yes!
Period stuff.
I don't
Come
care
on.
about period, man. JC's. Man,
I was about to say, it's a bit
That's
early,
actually- That's actually a great idea, and something I want to chuck over to all of the audience is someone should organise that. Like, I would love for someone to organise a little play group, kind of like Shakespeare's theatre sort of thing, where there's a little troupe of people that put on a play, maybe a different play every day of quest, every evening, on that scaffold.
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, and I just, that would be amazing.
You sit
You
the
make
fuck down.
you make plays about old swordcraft. You make plays. You retell stories from Althea in Warhammer
actually
plays.
a great idea.
As if they're fictional plays, like the time where the legend. Just
Yeah, no, that would actually be a great
play
idea.
based on the autumn quest, like the 4th quest.
Yeah.
I would love that.
On the siege on the undead chaos camp.
Look, I've already got it to a start. I'm planning to use it for stand-up. I need to run it by you. But the story of the first siege weapon to ever come into quest, and then followed immediately by the second one, which was a giant moldy log, is a story I call the cannon and the log.
The very first siege weapon that was ever a quest.
Okay, so they got their cannon. It was a pipe. It had a rubber band in it. It had a tennis ball and a couple of wheels.
The first one.
Wasn't it?
No.
So what's the first one?
Don't you remember when we had the very first fort that we put up with?
Yeah,
quest,
well,
which
it was a cannon.
Cannon. Yeah, it was a small cannon.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It shot about a whole foot.
No, because I got it. Shink. Okay, so I'll just do that sideways for the camera. So they rolled it up. So they rolled it up to the gates.
Yeah, like a foot away from the gate to try and make it hit. And the rules stated it had to hit the wall.
And the rules also stated that you weren't allowed to reuse ammo, but that was just out the window, wasn't it? Look, if you ever want to have a stream where we just tell stories about old swordcraft,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, and then we just horrify everyone else.
I shouldn't do that.
But no, seriously, that would get the scaffolding. Someone, just get volunteers put out to the whole swordcraft community. It doesn't need to be one warband. Just get people that like acting. There's lots of them in the community.
It doesn't even have to be like a play. It could be like a really bad stand-up show.
Yeah.
Orc just standing up there.
Swordcraft was terrible.
I have a feeling.
That's it. That's the whole bit. Is just that.
This is another good example of another pie in the sky idea, because the reason why something like that would be absolutely fantastic and fail miserably is because people are busy doing roleplay.
Yeah.
Or they're cooking their dinners, or they're doing this and stuff like that.
Toga party.
The sitting down and watching a show of some particular type is actually quite foreign to a lot of these people.
Mm.
So if you go up there and have this particular free space for people to put stuff on, they'll start putting stuff on. They'd have to probably be there for a good half hour, if not longer, to actually generate a crowd.
Yeah.
I do this at the tavern. I just tell stories about old Swordcraft, and I got James Freeman when he was out of character to come in and fill in the blanks of a lot of my stories because he was also there.
Mm.
But it was great. I started with just telling my own warband about the order, the cannon, the log, the shankers, which is another good story of mine. 6 guys from rural Victoria came in with nothing but cultist robes and daggers and turned Swordcraft on its head, and then the elves tortured them. Lots of So we just told stories, and it went for about half an hour to an hour, and people kept getting up and telling stories. It was super impromptu. It was just around one of the benches and stuff, but you could do it. You don't need scaffolding per se. You just need to do it long enough. We don't need resources for this. We can just do this.
Yeah.
You just, heck, you even organise that there's just a fire, so it's just a big campfire thing. You just do it. It's super impromptu. Whoever turns up.
Yeah.
And then you do it again the next night at the same time, and those people who turned up know what's happening and tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make it super organic.
Yeah.
You put little to no planning into it, and organic works at Swordcraft.
Yeah.
Organic festers and doesn't have enough. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong analogy.
Someone's also suggested bad stand-up show. Why not just hire Freddie?
Oh, I am bad.
Well, the only reason why I think we were sticking with the scaffolding is because back then there were travelling troops and they performed plays and they were on a stage, and that's why we were so with the scaffolding, because it would actually look like it's a travelling play in the middle of town.
Yeah.
So, and that's a stage. There's people practicing on it. And then, there might be a poster that says, come back at 6 p.m. for this show. And, because they see them practicing throughout the day, they're like, I want to come back and see that. And then, because it's a central stage in the square, it makes it more real, which is what I kept saying all night.
Yeah, the architecture of it conveys something. That's if you see this stage, you're like, oh, something happens there.
Yeah,
so you come back to town checking what's happening.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a play or stand-up comedy. It could just be in anything public execution, public
that's right.
humiliation.
Whack on me
anything.
telling puns.
Even like
But like
yeah.
if it's yeah.
Oh, God,
even
no.
But like if it's on a stage, it kind of gives the air of this is a performance. Whereas if it's just in the middle of town, it's like this is someone's role play.
but it's also a way
So
to
it kind of sets it apart that way
I
as
think I've
well.
just got an idea of just the great pun off.
but certain mechanics
So you can have your pun off, but we can't have our play.
All right.
Yeah.
certain mechanics like the Senate or other things like storylines can use a space like that to make them real and accessible to other players. Like the Senate was pretty inaccessible this time, but imagine if they all had to give their speeches in front of the people or something
Which would
like
be
that.
way
That's, what,
better.
that's actually what I wanted to do originally. I actually wanted the Senate to always be a public thing.
That's what I was
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah,
And I don't
wanted
know
it-
why it didn't
Yeah.
become. I don't know if people have got this. Like I think it happened in the very first one
I think
we
it was
did because of Frico being hired to be guards and then only invited particular people along, which went against what I was trying to achieve with it.
And I hear of like assassinations and things
Yeah,
like
like,
Yeah.
I wanted that to be part of it. There's still a certain element of people being dickish and just killing
Yeah.
everyone off because that's the way the Senates were in the past, and they think that's great role playing for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because the Free Company did come in and be cards on that very first one, it meant that we actually had a proper Senate. For the very first time, we probably had a proper Senate. However, it didn't involve the rest of the public who just would have loved to listen in. And the reason why the Senate came about the way it did is because I brought the Senate rules to life based off the way we used to run the Senate back in when we actually did go to Newgie, and we had the Middlemark Senate.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, the Middlemark Senate. The Middlemark Senate was basically me as the undead, the Guardians, which was actually Phil and Jeff, and even Nelson, and I can't remember who the other warband was. It was like usually a third one. I was Order and the Guardians. That's right, Audio Guardians and Undead. It was just the three of us with our representatives.
I thought the Guardians were Phil and Tarek.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they were Phil and
Fact
two other
check.
people.
Sorry.
They were people, but they were really good. Really small group of war bands. There's 3 different war bands, and we did this in the tavern, and everyone came along, and everyone was actually quiet and listening to us.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine how hard it'd be like trying to pull off an assassination with a whole public audience like watching. Like
And the thing
imagine.
is that most people do, and most people don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd
but
have
like
to make them
imagine like
curious.
you know the logistics of it and that exhilarating feeling. You know, having to actually okay, there's a crowd of people, we've got to work this instead of just like having like a select person in like this tiny room in the Senate just go up and you know, shamed you, you're dead.
Well, that would be great because, like, in not the like, if it's
Not the last bit.
no, not the if it's in public, it doesn't. It's not an assassination. The assassination would happen in camp or something, but during one of those meetings, it would need to become a public spectacle rather than someone sneaking up and stabbing them in the back. It'd be like. Death to the infidel! And like literally a group of people running in, charging the guard, killing them all, and trying to get to the Senate. It would be a grand gesture rather than being a sneaky.
Yeah, it could be a grand gesture. It
you
could be
could-
sneaky. There's a lot of ways that having a public Senate would set up for really good
A
role
bomb
playing.
hidden under their chairs.
You could actually
Totally not a pirate thing.
you could actually do one better. You could have because people think killing the Senate is good roleplay.
There are other ways to undermine people.
You could do great. You could have someone come to kill the Senate and then not realize that they've set up this wall, this impassable wall. So like a certain thing goes, and like you've let everyone sort of like, oh, this doesn't happen organically. This is sort of going against that. But you could have it sort of like you could have like role play or in-game effects that mean that people can't go and assassinate the senators while this is happening.
I'm against
Excellent.
that. This is the teaching of the player base, realistically, what it comes down to as far as I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
want the Senate to exist as it is and continue on, maybe a few changes here and there going into the new world.
Yeah.
I would still like the public to get involved, just listening to people actually have their discussions and stuff like that. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And I design a lot of the stuff that I do to be for a group of people, not everyone, because it's impossible to please everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put in as many different things as I possibly can to cater for that small group.
Yeah.
The more small things I have for small different groups, and it grows, I haven't got everything yet, it just grows and grows and grows, then I start having things for everyone.
Yeah.
Either run by other people or not. So the Senate is only for a small handful of people. The underworld's only for a small handful of people. And it's their choices whether they are part of it or not.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, it was cool that like there was an interplay between the underworld, the exchange, and Duran's Mart, for example. And I had to deal with that as part of the Senate.
Yeah.
So did
So that was
Chaos.
great.
We bought the weapon of mass destruction. Can I tell people what that was?
No.
Okay.
Why not?
Worth every
It's still a bit of a secret.
worth every freaking
Yeah.
penny.
Like,
You didn't spend any money on it.
Yeah.
like
We're still
having,
mad
Hang
at
on a
that.
second. If it's a weapon, if it was a special weapon, like why can't we know? Because Quest is
because
over
it's
now.
top secret. It
Yeah,
might be
but
brought out in
it's-
another quest. That's why shock factor. But-
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah,
It's the worst thing I can imagine.
I agree.
It was
Like
like
If it was a story
having-
like that,
Lollipop.
It was Mason made a LARP safe lollipop and said that it
Oh,
was
I
a weapon
did
of mass
hear about
distraction and that it could cause diabetes
yeah,
and
I did
childhood
hear-
obesity. And these things are terrible.
Yeah,
and
I actually did hear
And
about
we
it.
had this great moment where we were just asking Shogun if this was the right weapon. And the first time ever I see Rob break character because he can't stop laughing. He's like, yes, that is the weapon.
Yeah, no, I agree with the whole interconnectedness of things. Like one of my favorite things, like being in the Highwaymen and dealing with Durance Mart and also dealing with the Exchange. We rocked up in full force outside the Exchange, the tank and everything, just to deliver one letter. One letter.
Stand and deliver.
And it was essentially it. We weren't going to pull triggers or anything, but we just, here's a letter. And, she comes down. She didn't realize we had our guns pointed. Then looks up and goes, "Oh shit!" Ducks back in the tent so she couldn't get shot. But yeah, having everything kind of interconnected and just having that kind of deeper role playing is just it's really fun.
Oh yeah, while you were all doing that, I'm like, I need to get in there and get
I know,
alone.
we actually
about this,
took full advantage whilst the ritual for the avatar banishing was going on to kind of just roll into town undetected. There, a few heads turned. They're like, oh, whatever.
We had a bit of fun role play with the Shisha did when that scene
Oh,
happened.
yeah.
Because one of the exchange people, but the girl from New South Wales,
Yeah.
the Newcastle girl, when she came out of her area, was down the alleyway, and then people chased her down. And she thinks she got knocked out, but she didn't get killed. And she got killed in front of the Shisha den, and then got taken into the Shisha, and then got healed up there. So for a bit of shits and gigs, we got one of our rugs and literally wrapped the rug around her and got 3 guys to take her through the crowd and give a special rug delivery to the exchange so we could have her back.
I remember seeing all this happening, and I had to deliver a message to the coterie. I can't remember for the life of me what it was.
Yes, Brianna.
But just as I was in the coterie, I saw the Highwaymen roll down with their tank while that was going on.
Yeah.
And they stopped outside a coterie, and I knew there was some beef going on between Highwaymen and coterie, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and we literally all thought the Highwaymen were there to siege coterie, and I'm like, I don't want to be in the middle of
Yeah, no,
this.
it wasn't actually to siege Crater. We had runners going down to see and kind of scope out what the exchange were doing and what was going on in town and plotting our next move from there. But I can imagine how freaked out you would have been.
You stopped the steam tank right outside their gate. With your side things were open.
The players going into anecdotes again.
The sides were open. We were expecting the cannons to come out the windows any second. All of Highwaymen were around the side, facing the coterie's camp. I was like, whoa! They came in force.
Yeah,
Right.
and that was just to deliver a letter.
Right, so I'm going to ask another question now. The first part of this question is, did anyone end their character?
No,
No.
No.
I was never going to.
Yeah.
There's still roleplay going on within our warband
My
at the moment.
The Mad Mage
So-
has survived every soft and hard reset this world has ever had. He's probably going to survive this one.
You know, those people are.
I know, the worst!
my
I just re-kit everything.
What I was going to do, which never ended up happening because the roleplay that I needed for this to happen never happened, was our warband leader. He was killing off his character, and there was going to be a race for power within our warband, and I was like, damn it, I am power hungry. I have been my character has been for a long time, and I was like, I am not going, no holds barred. I was literally going to go in there, and essentially do this massive role play where I just take control, and if it failed, I had a backup, was that I was going to take my crew and in character, our ship was going to separate from the fleet.
Yeah.
And then just turn around and start firing on the other ships.
So basically like a one-man orchestrated mutiny.
Essentially, yeah. But this was happening after he had died. So it's like we had no leader, and I was like, I'm going to be the new leader or you're all dead.
Yeah.
Which didn't end up happening because like he ended up not dying.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Yeah.
When you survive your own like death story.
Yeah, so like, my way of finishing up my story couldn't happen because of that, but you know, that's just what happens.
I'd actually have to interject on this particular question before I go forward, because I'm being messaged by someone who's countering some of the things that are being mentioned, saying that they're not true and stuff like that. And it's realised to me that what happens, it's another problem, but people don't see it, is the perception of what happened. So because of so many people are involved, the information about what actually happened opposed to what people think happened are two entirely different things.
Yeah.
So whereas from one perspective you saw it and were told and were given all this information and that's how you know it, which is true from your perspective because that's what based off everything you know and were given. However, from a different perspective, different information was passed out and they have a completely different way the story went, and they both clash.
Yeah, it kind of becomes like a game of Chinese whispers.
Whispers, that's right.
It's like you hear it one way, and then you know by the time it passes through like 5-10 different people, you know a lot of the core events can be changed. So you know it's not always about you know the way that you see it is the only way to be true. It's all about people just kind of you know the way they perceive it and you know what they believe to be truth. You know some people you know might embellish a little bit because you know the thought of it you know makes it a bit more exciting, but you know to someone else it's like cold hard pure fact is you know the only way to go.
Yeah.
But the way people see things and you know the way we talk about things and you know it's all from a different perspective, so you can't say you know oh that's not true because I saw it this way, because you know there's all types of ways of seeing things, whether you saw it, whether you heard it, whether you participated in it.
Yeah, it relates to something that was discussed on like one of the Facebook groups. People worrying about the new format and I don't know all the lore and what happens, but really nobody do we even know what happens in our world today?
No.
Well, it was like it was the Althean story ending. It wasn't actually the end of Althea, but a lot of the player base interpreted it as it's the end of Althea, the world's getting blown up, which just wasn't true.
No.
So that's why people, you know,
were
so quick to, you know, dive in and just kill the characters.
Fun just fueling the fire.
Fueling
the fire!
That was my whole thing, was that when the world's not ending, it's continuing, which is why I said, right, well, my character, I don't want him to die. I want his story to end with his being rebellious. So it's ending with it's like, this is the end of the world, this is, we're ending the story, but his story's just beginning sort of thing. So it's like ending it on a cliffhanger.
It's like,
That's good.
I chose not to kill off my character, just because of the fact that she's a very bare bones character, and I hadn't really gotten to explore, you know, her core values, her core personality, what she was like as a person. So I chose not to end the story there, and plus, you know, I still wanted to go in the final battle, you know, as the crazy gypsy, you know, I'll throw a curse item at you, and then, you know, you choose how you act it out. But, yeah, I kind of wanted to continue her story a little bit after Quest, just to kind of see where the roleplay will take me, but, you know, with the new world coming in so quickly, just having to put her up on the shelf, but she's definitely, you know, if we ever return to Althea as, you know, a community, she's a character that I can just pull off the shelf going, oh, hey, look, I've got an unfinished project, let's, you know, develop.
As head of the underworld, if we ever return back to Althea, there's going to be some people I have to talk to about, you got shanked. It's like, underworld, holy shit, they're actually going to not come back alive again?
Yeah, I definitely... I I definitely wanted to explore the real the
It'll
real
be exchange of leadership.
the real mortality of the realization of actually having to play out these characters have now left us forever, and a few of my warband members did kill off their characters, and it was actually really emotional both for them and for us because it was like losing a whole entire friend.
Yeah.
And
I saw a lot of emotional moments, and it was sad. It was sad seeing those moments, and I wasn't killing off my character, so like I didn't experience that, but just seeing everyone's reactions and like how I saw people brought to tears, and it literally felt like they or someone had actually died, and it drew you into it, and those last few days were just
they were
so
really
heartfelt,
heartbreaking.
so emotional, and I loved that. It just felt real, and that.
You keep going on about this like
Yes,
real feeling.
For me, that's what Quest is. I want to go there experiencing something real. And like I'll
Go on, Jess, go.
I'm so sorry.
I'm just gonna say LARP is a really good outlet to experience real emotions, but in a safe space.
Yeah,
and that's what you're
it's
talking
great,
about.
yeah.
In making it real is in having real emotions. They don't have to be happy emotions. They can be sad,
yeah.
anger, terror, whatever you want.
Pissed off.
But then, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
kind of interpreting from you being. I want real things.
Yeah.
It's like you want real emotions.
Yeah. I
in
want real
character.
emotions. I don't actually
That's
want
fine.
to like.
That's cool.
I don't want actually my character to be like, I want to kill you, and then out of character me going up and no, I don't want that. What I want real is like I want it in the game. I want to feel real, but out of like
Out of character, Wow.
I told you that would happen.
Oops.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I suppose if you need to pee, you should go do that.
Okay, I'm gonna go pee now, but
Do we have more
wait,
drinks
guys,
in
I'm
the
gonna
fridge?
end the stream anyway. Let's just make it with a goodbye.
Alright.
Okay.
We can talk so much about things, but
yeah,
All
sorry.
alright, apologies for that. It was the phone that we were using. Anyway. It is 10 o'clock anyway.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
there we go.
We are like most LARPers like we are. We could talk about this type of stuff for another 10 hours, if not more, if we didn't
Easily.
have to sleep and we're just fed grapes. So I'm going to say goodbye to everyone who is still sticking around in the channel and who's just come back from this, and say thank you for joining this chat. And I'd like to say thank you to the 5 players who have come along.
Thank you.
Thanks for running it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
Jim.
as I said, I am going to have a bit of a break before I do any more of these particular talks, but they've been very popular and I'm sure we'll get more done. As I said, I definitely want to delve into the new world, because I'm pretty sure everyone's curious about that one. Also delve into Next Quest itself, and delve into a few of the warbands who have made quite large changes to their warband coming into New Quest. I'm also going to probably start talking to other LARPs at some point in time too, probably New Year, because after the fall will be up in Labor Day, as well as Black Powder and Bloodlines in the New Year as well. So hopefully after they have their particular events, I would also like to get some of them to come along and have a bit of a chat as well, hopefully. Alright, good night.
Hey, we started off with a burp. It's just right we end it with a burp.
We've gone
Oh
full
my
circle.
I'm going to end the night with a Freddy burp.
Gone full circle, guys. Just wrap it up.
It was gonna happen. It was gonna happen.
I drink so much of other people's soft drink.
I ran out and
This is life, yes, that is true. LARP is life, my friend. Go, if you think Soulcraft is life, go to Europe, or go to even some of the other LARPs in Melbourne, and you will see so much more. It is worth it, trust me.
Just do it.
Just do it. Spend $5,000 and go to Germany.
don't tempt
All
me.
right. Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming to Tim's Table Talk.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.